Hey, I'm Rich. I build stuff. This is part 9 on my B-17 build playlist. And here's a fun one for you. Now, what is it they say when they've done some big, great creative effort? Oh, yeah. Let there be light. And there is light. Here, we'll even turn this off. You can see it all a little better. So, yeah, that's part of what I was trying to do. So you can see inside and get a better look at everybody. Still got a bit of ways to go. But hey, if you want to learn exactly how I did this and how I'm going to have this, these lights be hidden up here, well, alright, you're just going to have to watch to find that out, aren't you? And find out we will with my, attempts at editing and, well, what I'm just going to call, a bunch of speed-ups and jump cuts to try to learn that video editing they keep telling me to do. So what I'm doing here is just making a bunch of, the trick with the triangles, or actually not in this case, but just with the smaller pieces of masking tape, kind of cut like from a bigger piece. That's sort of what I'm trying to do here. I use the scalpel to cut the masking tape. This is sharp, easy to cut. Hopefully you don't miss and mess up the canopy. And it doesn't seem like I have, maybe a few spots, but we'll just call it battle damage like I call every other error I've made here. And I do make a bit of an error in this, just in some of the fit, but that's later. Now I go ahead and I just kind of hem and haw a bit before coating the interior of the cockpit glass as well. And as you can see, I do that at high speed. Then of course I'll should be covering the insides of those top pieces as well. And if you're that, or I do, I guess, yep. And then I go ahead and use some magic sculpt. Oh yeah, no, this is because I saw on the outside that it didn't quite look like the cockpit had fully formed, like, properly into, like, the, like the fuselage. So it looked like it was, like, a bit muffed up. So I had to kind of make that seam that went between the, cockpit and the glass, as well as fill in a few things on the interior, just to get the fit of that cockpit glass to look, I thought, better. So you'll see me, of course, putting in Magic Sculpt, changing the music too, because why not? This is a fun thing after all, and I'm going at high speed. So, yeah, the reason I did the, whatchamahoots there, the Magic Sculpt, again, makes it look like it's more in the actual fuselage and not just a model kit. And the reason I have the masking tape here is actually so I can make more precise lines. Alright, just to get some of that footage there. ASMR. I know I'll have to do a little more to even this out, but this is a good start, at least for the outside. And then here we go again with, this time I do, so now I'm securing the top pieces of glass into the fuselage. And for putting in the glass pieces for this model, I'm going to be using that UV curing resin. You see there, I got my little UV drug lamp thing. But that's called a drug lamp. I don't know what you mean by a woods lamp or a black light. All I know is that I'm sure my room glows if we shine it around the wrong places. Anywho, so as you can see, I'm kind of neatening up those joints with the fuselage joins into the cockpit, making that look just a little sharper. Using a small, actually not the typical sculpting tool I use, but a small kind of piece that I've had forever. I don't know what exactly it is. It's not like a blade thing though. And then tweezers as well. And now I'm taking that clear resin, I'm putting it at the top of the, on the top outside of those cockpit things, as well as trying to be reasonably smooth about the application of it, because I want those cockpit glass things to be strong. Also, as you can see, I don't want to have to hold that light forever. I just want to, go do things for a few minutes. Whether they're things that would glow under a black light or not, I'm not going to say. But, yeah, anywho. So now I go ahead and I use, oh, hey. Oh, this is funny. This comes full circle. This is cyanoacrylate and the resin getting back at me for not using them in the proper contexts. You'll see why that was important later. But, yeah. Spoiler alert, I have to fix putting in that little fake instrument panel, photo etch instrument panel bit. And now, you know how I was starting to say that I was doing the triangle thing earlier with the masking tape? Now I actually kind of do it for the interior of these upper cockpit glass bits. And then after a bit of just kind of looking at the glass, I go kind of do an ADHD moment and get onto some other part of this, where I start putting in the kind of ribs that would be at the top section of this fuselage. Because there's ribs kind of for the plane in the bottom section, why would there be in the top section? And if you're going to open this thing up, wouldn't you want to look in and see it, you know? For old veterans of the channel, you'll remember this method from the Haley Page Halifax build. This is basically the same thing, and that's going to take up a lot of this vid. So last night, I once again learned a valuable lesson about working with model making adhesives and fun chemistry and stuff. Basically, be super careful that you close this frickin' bottle. Why? Because I had this nice plate with some beer can burgers, and I was eating it in here because that's where it was kind of an easy place to eat it in, and lo and behold, it fell onto the fucking plate, and it was not fully closed, and it ruined the plate. Thankfully, it did not ruin the food. Although, I will say, you know, being that I work with model making glue so much, and not necessarily under a fume hood, it quite possibly could be that I can't taste the difference. I have other meaner jokes I could make, but nah, I don't need to, you know, be mean. So what I'm doing here is, instead of trying to use that plastic glue, you know, the melting kind, like I did for the first few things, I actually smarten up and use cyanoacrylate for something it's good at. Now you're also going to see that really thin, yep, right there, that thin kind of proboscis thing I've attached to the cyanoacrylate bottle. Now that is there because, well, I need something that'll reliably trickle the cyanoacrylate into place. You know, so that's what I use it for. The rumors about me using it to, shall we say, inhale the cyanoacrylate are grossly exaggerated. No, I never would. That's a bad idea. Like a really bad idea. But as you can see, I'm putting these traces on. And the reason that I'm not like immediately just doing them in separate halves, that I'm actually keeping as one thing as much as possible, is so that they'll be mostly aligned across the entire, you know, fuselage. That's why I'm doing that. It's kind of like a hardware way of fixturing it, if you will, or yeah, trying to use the workpiece to fixture itself. As you can see here, I do the similar thing here. I hold down with tweezers and go along with the cyanoacrylate, and apparently a great view of my hair and lots of dandruff. Wonder if you'll find any lice. I wonder if I can charge them rent. I mean, in this economy, everyone needs all the help they can get. Speaking of help you can get, did you know that it's illegal to, like, make pet crows, I think it is, or something? Because they're smart enough to steal for you? I didn't know that until the other day. So yeah, but here I go adding with the crossway ribs, and I'll add the long way ribs in a bit. 19 minutes. 19 minutes are left on this thing. Strangely enough, a lower number than my IQ. Strange indeed. And then I got retested. It's 18 now. Anyways, so yeah, you'll see me again making just a few final of the kind of, you know, I'm not sure, the go around the fuselage type stringers, and then the longer ones I go ahead and I do next. So yeah, and I cut them up. Basically, I just use the indications on my mat to kind of roughly measure them, and then I put them in at the various places they need to go. And now it's throughout the short and the long ones. Then I go and I try to find out heads or tails of the clear canopy pieces. I cut them out, and then I'll install them into the model in a short bit. Yep, cut up some things, make sure things fit good as best I can at least. And then when things kind of roughly fit and go in easy, that's when I go ahead and I put in the effort to put the, well, yeah, actually, no, I paint the areas that it'll join first, so it'll look more realistic before I put in the windows and the clear epoxy, you know, the resin stuff. And once I got it cleared out and fitted, that's what all the file work is here, along with, again, my head and my bald spot. Yay, baldness, I don't know. Alright, so this was supposed to try and stay in there, but it came up. Why? Because the super glue last time applied is probably a bit weaker than it should have been, you know, old and not quite strong no more. Here we go, though, with some new super glue, and hopefully this will teach some lessons in strength and staying together and all that fancy schmancy stuff. Right, so speaking of lessons in strength and stuff, Yeah, you know when I mentioned the use of the resin rather than the evil powers of cyanoacrylate, which chose not to be evil today? Well, you're about to see a bit of a fail in cyano and resin, and then some adapting to remaking a piece in 3, 2, 1, boom. So I grab the thing, I start cleaning up that edge, and this is at the top of the fuselage for better fit. That's when I noticed that that little instrument piece that I'd mentioned earlier is what flew off. I only caught that, well, that's what it was when I was editing. But, yeah. Well, no, I knew of the piece, but I didn't see that I'd actually put it on in this vid until editing. Anywho, so I just take a piece of styrene strip, I start cutting it to size, filing it down to have smooth edges, and try to better meet the shape of what that thing was. And then I, of course, compare it to the rest of the panel, do a little more final cutting. Gotta guide in that thing carefully, then I just gently put it into position. I apply a blob of cyanoacrylate this time under it. I just kind of let it sit there, let it dry. This is a nice thin cyano, so it sort of benefits from that capillary thing. But then I go ahead and I paint in place. I know if I were smart, I might find a way to tweezer it and paint it away from this, but I mean, I have good eyes, but I have fat fingers. So of course I'm going to have to, you know, have this on something a little bigger just for painting purposes. So yep, we're going to see this in about slow motion, but I am in fact freehand trying to paint this and recreate the thing. And you'll see at the end of the song, yes, I've done a okay job. I mean, it's going to be buried in a cockpit, so it's not like you're going to have the clearest visual of it. But there we go. So at least there's an easy way to fix it, kinda. Then I go ahead and I put it in a bit. Yep, there we go. So there's the thing I was trying to emulate there. Right at the, it's sideways in this. But, yep, I apply the super glue liberally to hold it all in place. And then we get to, back to building some of this plane up. Okay, anywho. So, yep, I add another layer of the, UV clear epoxy. And then I do more of that triangle trick we're all familiar with from people that actually know what they're doing. So I go ahead, I cover it all up in the interior one there. I'm wondering if the back guy must have fallen out or something. Oh well. Either way, I apply some super glue to some places as well. I put on more things, and then I test fit the fuselage there. And then after some test fitting, I go ahead and just kind of paint over some areas that have fallen apart and start putting in some of the glass pieces into the nose. I paint around the edges again like I did for the top of the fuselage. I even clean my brushes because I'm not a savage. And then that is a vacuum pen. You'll see its utility is mixed in this so far, but I think it's got some promise. I'll have to learn how to use it a little better. You know, kind of like how I'll have to use the, clear UV cure epoxy. But as you can see, it is pretty good at what it does. Put it in, put the thing in, let it go. The thing is, it's still too big for me to use the thing you're supposed to use vacuums for if you're a guy. But we're not going to talk about that. Anywho. So here I am using the jeweler's coping saw to actually cut some of the little side nibbins that are actually on these kits windows. Now it's because they meant you to assemble it a different way, but I'm trying to, go for a bit different against setup. So I do actually put that back of the fuselage section thing in. Great. And then of course I cut up some more of the little square things. And I think partway through this, I realized that I don't need to be so crazy. Yeah, all I really need to do is just cover the outside bits except for where the, bars on the glass go in the masking solution. That's all I gotta do. Great, so moving things around, of course I rubbed my hand up against this thing unintentionally. So now I have to clean off all this nice masking work I just did, and by rubbing my hand on it intentionally. Oh. Okay, so before I rudely interrupted myself with non-editing me needs to learn not to talk. But yeah, so there we go. I cover those panels, and then I start doing a little bit of Yeah, oh yeah, I remember. I do a bit of placement work for those longer, you know, guys that go across the whole thing. So that's why I'm doing all this, like, math and measuring and thinking things out. Hemming and hawing, again, as I call it. I mark out where these longitudinal things should go to try and run the pattern. And then I go ahead and I super glue them into position once I got it all nice and set. And of course I cut it to length using the mat again. Whee! Cutting! Oh, come on. This is riveting stuff, guys. Most of the hobby, as others have said, is watching paint dry. Oh, come on. Come on. I want to be a great artist, and Steve Jobs said great artists steal. Oh, God, I'm sorry. I shouldn't look to him as a great artist. Anywho. Okay, enough of me bashing on Apple. So as you can see, there I go. I'm just doing the super glue a little bit at a time, you know. That way it kind of holds itself into place. And then at the end, we talk a little more. Damn. Well, it wasn't like the other one was totally full to start with, but looks like I've run out of strips long enough to do the rest of this. Well, good thing I got another bag of it. I should have said the bag that I first started with ran out. But that's besides the point. Looks like this isn't the end. Well, it's the end of that single one, anyway, but that's besides the point. But there we go. I do a little bit of trying to keep things nice and lined up. I know I could have done that other thing that I did with the other pieces that are, you know, go left to right. But, yeah. I'm not a smart man. And this I just roughly do. And then kind of cut as needed. And now, speaking of cutting things as needed, I cut my liquid mask with some liquid fluorescent dye for a really good reason. I'm going to explain here. Alright, so here we go. The results of the little experiment are in. So these are already easier to see just because of the different color. But also, they do in fact glow. Meaning, if you get the light at the right angle, you'll see. And be able to see much more effectively where, you know, you've left those edges and whatnot. So I'm calling this a success. I'm calling this very successful indeed. Although that's interesting. It looks like there's like a line of the glowing there. And that's not so cool. So, alright, now I'm going to mix a little more of the glowing stuff and coat the rest of this, I guess. Thinking about it now, maybe next time I'd add like a little white paint too. I'm just not sure if that white paint would stick onto the clear stuff, you know. Even though it might be within the liquid mask itself, you know what I mean? So here what I'm doing is more back to the modeling instead of painting. So I'm actually lining where this fuselage joins with masking tape so that it won't join the bead of magic sculpt I put in to the other side, and I can actually try to sculpt things. This is like the a version of that super glue and magic sculpt trick to join pieces together. Well, instead what I'm doing is using that magic sculpt and pressing it into position to try to get rid of the seam. Now try to remember how big the seam has been in the few times you've seen it this video so far. It shrinks it down quite a lot. I've still got work to do, but this method really helped. Now maybe it's, you know, maybe I can treat that a little more, maybe, you know, do this again with a little less. And as you can see, I'm kind of, you know, finishing off that, you know, where I've added this filler in place. You know, making it so it's not an ugly, you know, globby thing on the interior or exterior. And as you can see, I think that's greatly improved. I'll still have to, again, modify the exterior using some magic, so that's besides the point. What's relevant now is, how did I get those lights to connect? Well, I used some magnetic connectors and a bit of ingenuity. By the way, you'll see that solder. It's lead solder. I insist on the best. I know, okay. But, Rich, lead is poisonous. Lead causes cancer. Everything causes cancer in California. That's why it's the California Seal of Approval. I don't know what this Proposition 65 or California actually having low cancer rates is. You can look it up. Their rates are actually pretty low. Probably in part for those warnings. Probably also have a stuff disposal problem because they got to toss out a lot more stuff. But then again, like, California's got a lot of people, so there's that. Anywho, I've soldered this. I used a soldering iron, held it in place, and I've used this clear piece here, that clear bit of UV cure resin. I use that as a sort of strain relief to keep those welds nice and strong and not destroying themselves. Then I super glue some more of the Magic Sculpt into place. I've already secured the lower connector into the fuselage, and that way what happens is I can reach in through the bomb bay, smooth out a bit of this joint, and what you have is this thing finally mounted a bit in a way that I can go ahead. I put in the LEDs themselves so that they'll be in the right places. I used clear epoxy on them, but then super glue on the wires themselves, trying to route them in a way that would look like it was actually connected, like it was an actual wire somewhere. Now I do have to bunch some of the wire, and then I also recover that initial fixturing of the magnet connector. So yeah, I did this with a magnet connector. And then because this is where the dinghy compartment looked like it was, and I didn't even really check this, so it could have been on the other side, and I wouldn't know because I didn't really bother to pre-plan it that much. That's a lesson too. But anywho, so as you can see, now that I've got that way going, I go ahead and I make more of that masking fluid, so I can go ahead and cover all the windows now that I've secured the, secured and textured the joint of that, that magnetic connector. There we go. So that is how I got the wires up there. And now you will see how I tested it and if it works. But first, we have to make the joints of this cockpit instrument panel look like they're actually connecting to things that are within the plane. Because those instruments did go to, like, measuring bits. Okay. It is almost time. First, we must paint and prime the fuselage top piece. It's done. Okay, now here's a fun little bit for you. So, that front light, where I had the lamp way back in the beginning, well, guess what? I have a DC power supply for a reason, and it is to test little things like this. Guess what? We'll zoom in. It worked! Yes, right there. It is lit. It lights. Then, all this time filling up. Okay, we gotta solder the leads. Gotta heat shrink them so they actually stay good connected. And then, yup, that's right. I am not a savage. I properly heat shrink my electrical joints. Then I wrap that in heat shrink to keep it from coming apart. And then, after running all the leads out to test, it's there. Ta-da! Magnets and connectors. So my plan is I'm going to hide that, to be like the dinghy of this thing. That's why I've tried to make it kind of look like it was, sculpted like that. I've tried to hide the cables in so that they'll look a bit more, like they're going to places. This isn't going to be really super well hidden on the contacts, but I can try to hide other stuff as I go. The way I figured that would look pretty good. Now on this, I'm going to have to take some creative license, kind of blend some lines together and whatnot. And I'm going to have to redo that thing where I filled in a lot of this space, so the Magic Sculpt to really, bring down those seam lines. But I think it's coming along splendidly. With that, I am Rich. I build stuff. This has been part 9 of my B-17 build playlist. I hope you enjoyed, and I guess there's, the last thing to do is the YouTube dance. I'm going to do it one hand because I'm actually holding the camera, and, like, share, subscribe, hooray! Peace out for now.